All right, Martti, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Freedom Footprint Show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Martti is for those of you that don't know, Martti is a true legend in the space. You had contact with Satoshi himself back in the day, did you? Did you not? Yeah.
Yes.
On the Bitcoin Talk forums, I guess? And in the mailing lists?
Actually, email before that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so there's, and you quite recently, like a couple of months back, released a couple of email back and forths that hadn't been released before.
Yes.
So what's the story? Why did you do that?
Yeah, so I was asked to be a witness in the Craig Wright trial, Wright versus COPA trial in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So I shared my emails for that one. I just didn't feel, I had been asked to share them before, but I didn't feel comfortable like sharing private correspondence, but this seemed like a worthy cause.
Okay, and what was what's like the TLDR on the information that came out there? That
maybe I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer that, because it's more interesting what other people get out of it, because it's been on my mind all the time. So maybe others have made better like rehashes of that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should go all the way back to the beginning. How did the contact start, and maybe just a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So in 2009, I was a computer science student at Helsinki University of Technology. But I didn't waste time studying too much. So I had a lot of free time to think about the world and everything. I'm quite passionate about liberty, like many of us Bitcoiners, but I wasn't inspired by politics at all. Instead, I was inspired by making a difference through technology without asking the boomers for permission. Most of people are not libertarians, and we will not be able to convince them to vote libertarian. So I was thinking what would be the most impactful thing you could change, and I figured it would be money, because everything runs on money. And if you give government and central banks control over our money, they have too much control over our lives. So I went looking for alternatives. There had been alternative monies like e-gold and PegUnix and something like that. Liberty Dollar was maybe a few years later, I'm not sure. But they were all centralized in some way. But then I was Googling around for something like peer-to-peer currency, and Bitcoin came up. It had just been released. It was April 2009 when I found it, and it had been released just earlier. I took some time to read the white paper and think about it, and I wrote about it on some forums, antistate.com and Free Domain Radio forums, asking what they think. Satoshi later found those and joined the threads. Then I sent email to Satoshi. That's how it started.
Okay, so what's the first email you sent to Satoshi? What was in that, and what's the reply you got?
I was mentioning I started those threads on those forums.
Okay.
And I was saying I want to help Bitcoin if there's something I can do. And he asked me to do some writing. He said like there's not much that's easy to do on the coding side. I was a junior developer at the time. So I helped him first writing, and I started writing an FAQ. He sent me some replies he had sent to some people to help me with the FAQ. And it's quite interesting to read.
And did you ever have any of these other things before Bitcoin? Like, did you ever own any Liberty dollars or eCash or eGold or whatever they were called?
I remember I was about to buy PegUnix at some point. I'm not sure if it was before or after Bitcoin, but the whole process was so shady. You were supposed to wire money to Hong Kong and something like that. So I just cancel it.
All right, and then after the FAQ phase, like how did you continue working on Bitcoin? Like what?
Yeah, so he also gave me access to bitcoin.sourceforge.net, and eventually, I don't recall the exact order of events, but eventually I also was managing bitcoin.org on the site over there. We made experiments with different forum software, very interesting technical, like configuration discussions you can read in the emails. And we settled on simple machines forum software. And Satoshi was even himself doing some PHP configurations like custom captcha, so spam bots would not find their way there.
And what's your like feeling towards Satoshi? Like, what was he like in your mind? Like, what is this person? Like, do you have a vision in your head?
Yeah, well, first I thought he's Japanese because of the name, and on some social profile he mentions he's a man from Japan. But I had my doubts because his English was so perfect.
Okay.
That's not usually the case, maybe. Well, when Dorian Nakamoto surfaced or was doxed, I was like, this is how I imagined Satoshi to look like. I'm not sure if I actually did or if it's like after the fact. No, maybe I think of something like that.
All right. And do you think it's a single person or maybe a group of people?
Yeah, that's the impression you get if you read our correspondence.
That it's a single person.
Yeah, I think many others have also come to the conclusion from the correspondence.
All right.
But yeah, that's what I always thought. Also, the theories that Satoshi is CIA or whatever, I think are pretty much debunked by our correspondence, unless they're like playing 4D chess.
Yeah. Do you have a candidate you can disclose, or would you rather not?
I mean, I don't have any secret insights. Like, Sabo is an interesting like candidate and everything. I don't really know.
Yeah, even if you would have answered here, we would have cut it out probably.
No, Knut's right because I think this has been coming up a lot in the space, is the idea of anonymity or pseudonymity and how important it is to maintain that and let people maintain that. Like how dangerous it is for people who are developing in the space, but for whatever reason want to stay private, and then people getting doxed accidentally. So yeah, what do you think? Should Satoshi remain anonymous? Pseudonymous?
It's more interesting if he's unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. So we wrote a bit about this in the book because there's a part, there's one part of the Bitcoin community who wants to that sees Satoshi as this messianic figure and wants to put him on a pedestal and make him into this superhero, which is very understandable because of the supposed act of martyrdom that he did, like just disappearing and not taking the opportunity to become the richest man in the world.
Just such a biblical story.
Yeah. But I see a danger in like hero-fying him too much, though, because that creates like it makes us more into a cult.
Yeah, that's true. This is what Jesus would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it what Craig would say?
Yeah. I mean,
probably not.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot. There's a bunch of more Bitcoin history attached to you. Like we have a Bitcoin Pizza Day, for instance, where Laszlo bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you did a similar thing just like a year later, or maybe 2 years later.
Yeah, and I was there congratulating Laszlo on the thread. Next post after him, I was there. So in 2011, I sold over 10,000 BTC. It was a bit over half of what I had, so I maybe 20,000 left. So I sold a bit over half of it when the exchange rate peaked around $15 to $30 that year. So I bought an apartment near Helsinki, Finland, a studio apartment. Pretty nice, but today you would buy the whole district.
Yeah, you could buy Helsinki with the money. Like in 10 years from now, you could probably buy Finland with, like, who knows?
yes, as I always say, at least I got more than 2 pizzas.
Yeah. Do you regret that, or is that like?
I have a good story.
Yeah.
Well, of course, would be fun to be a billionaire or something, but that was not the point when we started working on Bitcoin, and I can't. It's not like I've lost anything on this journey. Quite the contrary.
Yeah. That's the right attitude, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's such a strange phenomenon because like sooner or later, you get Helsinki apartment Bitcoin parity, where it's 1-to-1, and that's pretty close. It's like we were talking about this just before. It's like 4 Bitcoins for the same apartments today, right? So what's that? A 2,500x price increase?
Yep.
Yeah, and the number go up. Technology persists, so it can happen again and again and again.
Yeah.
So a little more about the early days. Like what else did you get up to then, and how long were you really involved in the Bitcoin development community?
I was like really active from 2009 to maybe 2010. In 2009, I was making some contributions to the Bitcoin software. I think I made my last push to the repository in 2010 early, but I needed a real job, and Bitcoin was not a real job at that time. So I got my first real job in 2010. So from then on, I had less time to contribute to Bitcoin. I think I managed the forums for a few more years. Usually I say from 2009 to 2011 was my contribution.
What was the last contribution?
Mostly with the forums, but I also had bitcoinexchange.com for some while.
Okay.
2010. The first like semi-automated Bitcoin exchange site where you could buy and sell Bitcoins from me, and it would give you a quote automatically pricing. But I lost like 30,000 Bitcoins. I wasn't running it like a business, just wanted to. It's Bitcoin faucet.
That's at least 6 pizzas. Like yes. So what's your view on Bitcoin nowadays? Like, are you happy with how the project has evolved over the years? And like,
yeah, I'm very happy. You walk around here in BTC Prague, you see all the amazing things people are building, and walking in a mining container maybe. That's something you wouldn't have imagined back in 2009, or when I first went to like a professional mining operation in 2014, 14 in Finland. Some of the first ASICs that my friends were bringing to Finland, they had an old steel factory with like a 10 megawatt power line and full of these miners, and it was surreal. Bitcoin existed only in the virtual space for me for such a long time. Now it's real and it's changing the world, and of course we are living critical, interesting times with all the corporate Bitcoin stuff going on. But yeah, I've been following on the sidelines, but I'm quite happy.
Do you see any threats to the project?
Yeah, I guess like the KYC versus non-KYC Bitcoin split seems like a risk.
Yeah. Oh, what about the spam? Do you have any opinions there about like people putting other stuff on Bitcoin?
I don't have a strong opinion. It's a bit annoying, I guess. Feels unnecessary to me, but they're paying transaction fees, and Bitcoin is still working, and Lightning Network is working, and I'm using it a lot with Nostr these days.
Yeah.
Let's not segue to Nostr just yet, but let's get there, of course. The original tone of the project back in early days, how would you compare that to now in terms of the difference between how people were talking about it, thinking about it, acting about it, and this day and age?
Yeah, it was a bit different in the very early days when Bitcoin had no value, basically. Maybe I liked it more back then. It was only idealistic. And maybe late 2010 or something, when GPU mining started, and like we had an influx of people who were only interested in mining and making money. Nothing wrong with that per se. It's like Bitcoin's incentives are working. Non-Bitcoiners are adopting Bitcoin, which is a good thing. But the vibe changed a little bit.
Well, so the original goals of the project then, back before it had a value, it's like the cypherpunk mentality. But you came at it from the money angle. Is that right?
Yeah, I was never like an OG cypherpunk.
But you were convinced by the project pretty quickly, right? That it was going to do. What were you thinking about before finding Bitcoin? Like what were you thinking about the money system? Because I'm interested that you know, were you thinking about other people, whatever, about the problems with the money system already way back then? Because one angle about the cypherpunk stuff is that they weren't really thinking about solving money; they were thinking about solving payments. What is there any truth to that? What were you thinking about that got you into the project?
Yeah, well, it was both payments over the internet. You could send money as easily as email with no middleman, but also about the money itself. I was 20 years old at that time, so I wasn't that wise yet, but I had looked into currency a little bit, and like silver and gold money standards.
I think it wasn't really until like 2016, 17 when especially Seyfedin's book popularized it, but it wasn't until somewhere there that people started to take this Austrian economics angle to its full extent and talk about sound money and number go up and stuff like that.
Yeah, was that angle present at all back early days, even in your thinking? Did you come across any of that?
You mean sound money?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course, that's the whole point. The government can't print.
Well, Hal was onto it. Like Hal tweeted, wrote, or not tweeted, but he tweeted running Bitcoin. But he hinted at Bitcoin going to $1 million very early on, right?
Yeah, I guess I realized in theory this could have a lot of value. I didn't have a life experience to tell me that good theories can become true, and who knows, maybe most ideas.
So what did you ever have a shitcoining phase?
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right.
Not seriously, but I was in 2015. I think Goldman Sachs started pushing this meme. It's blockchain. It's not Bitcoin. Like they could not discredit the entire thing, but they didn't like Bitcoin back then. I never believed in it. There was all this blockchain hype, and I was like, it's the emperor's new clothes. I went to Satoshi Roundtable a couple years ago. I guess that's when shitcoinery struck me. I thought it's like everyone's doing this stuff. Not like seriously or scamming, but a couple years ago we had this social nouns project. So if you know, there's a DAO called nouns on Ethereum. So every day the smart contract generates these random pixel dude avatars on chain and auctions them. They were selling for crazy amounts, like 100 ETH, and they had like $30 million in their treasury. And the NFTs would be shares of the DAO. So DAO, kind of interesting idea. We forked nouns and made like a Finnish culture themed version of it.
What is it, Moments?
No, it's like Koskenkorva booze.
Okay.
And everything. So we ran that for a while with the mission to fund decentralized social networking initiatives. It was like so I had been working for decentralized social media for a while. I was about to quit because it wasn't gaining traction. So that was like the last effort. We ran the DAO for a while, but we didn't feel like continuing it. So we shut it down and returned the funds to the buyers.
So it wasn't decentralized and autonomous then if you could shut it down?
No, because we had the majority of the tokens, so we could vote.
All right. Yeah.
Return the funds.
Well, okay. Shitcoining aside, and I mean that's the single most interestingly, at least branded, cool project I've heard of. So that's funny. I'll give you that one
Because of the Koskenkorva?
because of Koskenkorva. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look! Why did the chicken brush his teeth?
Why, Knut?
Do chickens even have teeth? To get to the Bitbox on the other side of the road.
What a fantastic idea. The Bitbox is our favorite hardware wallet for a lot of reasons. It's easy to use, apparently also for chickens. Bitbox cares about your security and your privacy. They take measures to make sure they're not collecting more information about you than they need to. And they also have fantastic customer support. They get rave reviews. So if you have any issues with your Bitbox or you don't know how to use it for some reason, then they can help you out and take care of you.
So go to bitbox.swiss/freedom or use code FREEDOM for 5% off your Bitbox right now. Hey, Luke, what's the difference between a chickpea and a Bitcoin advisor?
What, Knut?
I never had a Bitcoin advisor on my face. But you could have one in your face because we're Bitcoin advisors.
That's right, Knut. We're working with the Bitcoin Advisor, and we're all about securing your Bitcoin for the long term. The Bitcoin Advisor has a collaborative multi-sig solution so that you can secure your Bitcoin for the next 20 years and beyond. Even if you lose one of your keys or something happens where it's an inheritance situation, they've got you covered, and we can help you get there. So go to thebitcoinadvisor.com for more information, or you can reach out to us and book a call so that we can explain everything to you ourselves. Doesn't that sound awesome?
Sounds absolutely spectacular. It's basically boating accident insurance, isn't it?
Exactly. Although, boating accidents, well,
you could have boating accidents anyway. Whatever.
Go to thebitcoinadvisor.com today.
Do the things.
So what gave you the idea about decentralized social network though? What was the original thought behind that?
That's something that crossed my mind pretty soon after Bitcoin. I was like, what would be the next most important thing we should decentralize?
Mhm.
And I thought actually first it wasn't even social media, it was like reputation and identity that I was thinking about. So I was thinking we need an alternative, like social force for good, like an alternative to government courts. So like we have these rating systems on Uber and Airbnb and whatever, and sometimes they work pretty well, but I was thinking we should have a decentralized version of this, and also an alternative to centralized identity like domain names or phone numbers or whatever.
Yeah, and so okay, this is actually an interesting point here. Was doing this on or around Bitcoin ever in the discussion, or was this always through some other Ethereum or whatever it is?
No, I didn't ever think we would need a blockchain for that.
Okay, so yeah, I get this. So this is some interesting ideas, right? Because why? What's the thought process about blockchain versus no blockchain, or using some kind of DAO versus not? What was your thought process there?
Because blockchain is necessary to prevent the double spending problem, and if you need a global consensus, but in a reputation system or in a social network, you don't actually want an expensive and slow and low bandwidth global consensus.
No, so cryptography is enough in this sense, I guess.
Yeah. Just a public key-based peer-to-peer system, like Nostr is now.
Yeah, and you're working on Nostr now, right?
Yeah.
Working for Snort, is that right?
Yeah, we joined. So I've been working on my client named Iris for quite a while, but we joined forces with Snort, another client.
Yeah.
Take us through the whole thing, like finding Nostr and realizing it was the one.
Yeah. So I started from the reputation thing, I eventually pivoted to social media. I realized it's a more familiar concept to people. It's familiar concept to follow someone instead of giving like trust ratings or something. it used to be called Identify, my identity thing. Then I came up with the name Iris, which means rainbow in ancient Greek and kind of symbolizes the plurality of voices and diversity of humanity in a good way. And it's also the Greek goddess of the rainbow and the messenger of gods, so it seemed fitting. In 2019, I think, when I had Iris, the decentralized social network, it was not Nostr back then. It was another decentralized system, very similar, public key based, and you would synchronize stuff over WebSockets. So 2022, it was not gaining traction. I was ready to abandon it, but then Nostr happened. I think that's when Jack Dorsey joined Nostr in December 2022, and that's when it started booming. And as it was so similar to my system, it was easy to convert Iris into a Nostr app. So I got a bit of a head start with that, and many people were using Iris back in the day. So Iris is a browser-based Nostr client, very easy to start using.
Yeah, and so can you explain what is a client and a little bit about the architecture of Nostr for those who aren't familiar? Like, why does it work?
Yeah, so Nostr works because it's really simple and it's very easy for developers to work with. So accounts are basically public keys. You don't need a service provider, unlike email or something. It's like Bitcoin. You just generate a public key and that's your account. Permissionless system.
Yeah, we had Miljan from Primal on the show just a couple of weeks back. It was very interesting about like the developments in Nostr. And there's also this Nostr Riga thing happening in August, and we're doing a lot of stuff there. There'll be a big event starting on Infinity Day, and then the rest of the week is all Nostr and Bitcoin. We're looking forward to that a lot. Are you coming to Riga?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just next doors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can use code FREEDOM for 10% off, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So okay. Nostr is simple. The relay systems is sort of how it scales, right? That individuals don't need to connect to every other individual. They can go through this relay system to get connected. Right?
Yeah. Although I would like to advance the peer-to-peer side as well, like clients connecting directly to each other. Relays are a bit difficult for scaling. I mean, like, they're expensive to host. There are some like paid relays, but it would be in some ways easier if you connect to your friends. Like, everyone's already paying for storage on their phone and for their bandwidth with their ISP.
I remember in the early days of file sharing, there was a program called DC++.
Yeah, I used it.
That was before torrents were a thing.
Yeah, that's
true. That was
true.
great.
But also, Pirate Bay was one of my inspirations with Bitcoin. Actually, when I had my Bitcoin exchange.com, I used the layout of piratebay.com as the template for my site.
Yeah, I have a bit of history with Pirate Bay as well. I grew up in the same town as one of the three founders. And I was friends with his older brother, I think, because we were a couple of years older. And then we made a music video. It was like, what can that have been? Like 12 years? No, it's like 10 years ago now, something like that. And uploaded it to, they had something called the Promo Bay. So they promoted local bands. And all of a sudden, our video was on the front page of the Pirate Bay. And the views just kept rolling in. So we got like 100,000 views in 3 days or something. And it's like my first experience of something weird happening on the internet to me.
Nice.
So like sitting there pressing F5 and like, holy shit, this is going on.
Nice.
It's exhilarating for sure.
At one point, like half of the internet traffic was BitTorrent.
Yeah. It's super cool. And it's still working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so Bitcoin, BitTorrent, Nostr, all of these decentralized things. Are we there now? Do we have the toolkit to be able to get out from the centralized authorities and the centralized services Is it there? Even if it's still early, the network effect hasn't really gotten there yet with Nostr, for example. Like,
Yeah.
is there anything else needed?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin does a good job with money, and I hope Nostr can do everything else. The public key-based accounts and the social graph that they form can be used for many kinds of purposes, not just social media.
Emilian was saying that it basically solves the spam problem immediately by just taking the accounts that other people follow. The spam accounts can't get their own followers.
Yeah, Web of Trust. Web of Trust was like one of my core ideas back in 2013-14 when I started the identity thing, and I'm so glad it's catching on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Back briefly to the Pirate Bay. Did you see the documentary they made about the trial against these three guys?
Might have seen.
Because that was also like, for me, that's like some kind of inflection point or whatever you may call it. Like it really shone a light on how corrupt the juridical system is and the international courts and stuff. Because these people weren't doing, they only hosted links. They didn't host anything really. So it's just links. So they were Google were just as guilty as they were because they linked to them. So
yeah, like the U.S. media corporations are using the U.S. government to pressure Sweden.
Yeah, and there were so many really weird things, like the police officer who had the what's it called? Who knocked on their doors and
arrested them.
Yeah, arrested them. But what's it called when you give
warrant?
The word. Yeah, the search warrant to go in and ransack the flat. He got a job at some Hollywood studio afterwards. So he like moved out of Sweden and got a job with like Warner Brothers or something. It's just so corrupt. But if you haven't seen it, you should. It's called TPBAFK.
Oh, I've seen it a long time ago.
There's a quote from the documentary that they prefer the abbreviation AFK to IRL because I'm just away from keyboard. The internet is the real world. Like there's no such thing as IRL and then the internet. It's just away from keyboard or not.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great movie.
We're jumping around a bit, but on the topic of court cases, so the involvement in the recent COPA case, that's what we touched on at the beginning there. Yeah, what made that feel worthwhile to you? Was there a real threat there, did you think?
Well, I kind of wanted to avoid the whole thing and have nothing to do with it. But sometimes I guess it's important to speak the truth, and I really appreciate Hodlonot and everyone else who's been doing exactly that.
Do you regret that you were always yourself in this space? Well,
instead of anonymous, as opposed to anonymous, you
what was the story on that? Because I know you still have some of the original handle, right? You still go by Sirius, right?
Yeah, I was never like pseudonymous or anonymous. It was just my handle.
Yeah, but you weren't trying to hide your identity or anything. Do you have any regrets about that?
Not at all.
So what's your thinking on that? The benefits versus the drawbacks of being anonymous. What do you think about that?
I guess if you want to be like truly anonymous and stay hidden, you need to go to lengths like Satoshi.
Yeah.
Use Tor everywhere and be really careful. There have been many people who have been doxxed, like the Nostr founder recently. I guess like the lawsuits have shown that it has its advantages to stay anonymous sometimes, and like the
Cobra.
And recently the maybe Samurai wallet or something. Yeah. But you need to be really careful, and I'm not sure if I would be willing to do that, to take that stress from staying anonymous and hidden.
No, the opposite side of that coin is that we need people on the battlefront who are ready to take the. I mean, this whole thing. We just saw Eric Kayson's opening speech here at the venue. It's a great speech, and because
shout out to BTC Prague. It's actually seriously fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic, and it's so spot on that like these people that want to take our stuff against our will are the criminals. They are the problem. If there's a juridical system that can like make a great guy such as Hodlonaut have to fight a legal battle for 5 years, like he's one of the most ethical people I know of, and the Pirate Bay people and all of this. It's happening in this world we're living in now. So Bitcoin and Nostr are the tools to get out of this thing and like show people that these ideas don't come from nowhere. They come from insights about human action and what we are and what we do, and violence versus non-violence.
Yes.
And that's the fight we're taking, and like we're proud to be taking it. Like we should really stand our ground.
Yes.
It's not to say that anonymous, pseudonymous, there's anything wrong with that, and there's reasons for people making that choice, right? And I mean, with Hodlonaut, it was like two unique things that were wrong with the world. It was that the UK libel laws are very specifically super easy for a famous person to just say, you've libeled me, I've got lots of money and I can sue you. And then that all the other countries say, we will follow your legal rulings. And exactly. So it's that interconnectedness. It's the states backing each other up is the real root problem. If you get, I can't imagine that, say, the Federated States of Micronesia could decide that that their libel laws are just absolutely like nuts bonkers now, and all of the other countries of the world would do that, but the UK has the historical standing and their legal system, and so it's just he got screwed so many ways, and then of course the motivation to find out his identity and all this, it's tough. And so I guess back to the idea of that, maybe it's better to just have the control yourself and not be pseudonymous, because in a way you take control of your own identity. I am me, and there's nothing hidden here, so you can't take that away from me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't get your identity taken away from you. You can't have that overlay layer can't ever get stripped back, right? I think that's the risk of being pseudonymous or anonymous.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes it might give you a false sense of security, I guess.
Yeah.
It can become catastrophic if you lose it, basically.
But like Bitcoin has pointed out so well that money printing is evil, and it's enriching people on levels that are just unimaginable. The state has so much power everywhere, and they use it for other evil stuff. Like,
and Bitcoin has opened our eyes in this regard. Many people have only with Bitcoin started thinking about these things.
Yeah, which is in hindsight is so like, how could before the Bitcoin paradigm, how could everyone on Earth just buy into this bullshit? It blows the mind that everyone fell for it, and like only a handful of people on the entire planet was thinking about a solution for it. It's just weird.
Yeah, Bitcoin like forces you to think about it. First you're like, no, it's not gonna work. Then you start thinking, wait a minute, how does money actually work?
Yeah, and then wait another minute, it has to work. Like otherwise, like it's just darkness ahead. Programmable people and CBDCs. That's awful. So fight the fight. Increase your freedom footprint. Brush your teeth. Amen.
Share, like, subscribe, etc., etc.
All right, Luke. Let's talk about Riga. Why people should go to Riga this specific year. There is so much here. I mean, Riga Bitcoin Week this year is absolutely fantastic. It starts off with Noob Day, and following Noob Day, our own Infinity Day party at the basement bar, which is just spectacular. And there's a rumor going around that there'll be some free drinks or something. So that's just great. And after that, it's the Freedom Unconference, which is a Nostr-themed freedom couple of days before the actual Riga Baltic Hunting Badger conference starts. And after that, of course, it's BTC Pay Server Day. And there are karaoke nights and official parties and whatnot. So come celebrate Infinity Day and the launch of The Inverse of Clown World, our new book, in Riga this year. Of course, 21st of August. Use code FREEDOM for 10% off your Riga ticket. Don't miss this.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I have nothing to add.
You don't need to add. This was the ad.
Oh, okay. Back to the show. Maybe on a slightly related note here, bringing it close to home, slightly literally. Finland has actually been really involved in Bitcoin from the very early days, and I mean our listeners know and understand. I'm the pseudo Finn. I've picked Finland as my adopted home and all this, and I guess this is a whole line of questions. One of the things is I've been sort of asserting that I think Finland is one of the least insane places on the planet, but that's sort of biased from someone coming from outside to in. What do you think? What keeps you in Finland? Is it actually, compared to other places, less insane?
Well, I guess family and friends is what keeps me in Finland. Native culture, I guess it's my home after all.
Koskenkorva?
Yes, that as well. Sauna.
Yeah.
Summer is pretty nice, but everyone in Finland fantasizes about going somewhere south in the winter. I guess it's the same in Sweden.
Yeah. I did.
So why do you think Finland is less insane?
Yeah, to me, the social system is pretty okay in terms of that things work. And not just the social system, I mean government-run stuff, just society as a whole works pretty well. Of course, there are cases where it doesn't work for someone in particular, and every type of bureaucracy or something can
this
have
is
its own
relative
problems.
to other countries and not relative to the private sector.
Exactly. Well, but I am also talking about that there's private sector elements. Like companies all have this. Everyone has the same types of, for example, vacation policies. I don't believe there's a law that says the companies have to give an extra vacation bonus, but they all do because the employees wouldn't work for them otherwise. Something like this, and so it's just to me, my impression is that Finland is pretty well functioning as a society compared to many, if not most, of the other places in the world, and that maybe there's some lessons to learn about that the society can build in a way that's cohesive.
Yeah, I guess it's the same in all Scandinavia, like culture of trust, and we have institutions that work to some extent. Like the corruption is maybe on a different level. You don't bribe the officials in everyday encounters. It's
I see it as you have to bribe them on a higher level.
Yes.
Like you bribe the top instead of the policeman on the street. You have to bribe the entire institution. I've coming from Sweden, I've seen that. I think that is the main problem with the Scandinavian countries. This culture of trust in the institutions, because when the institutions fail, it's dangerous as fuck.
Well, I don't necessarily mean trust in the institutions. More like trust in each other. Trust
that's also true.
Yeah,
that on average, you know what to expect from any other person you encounter on the street, basically, and that's pretty nice.
It works as long as people are honest, but when they're not, it's very bad.
So, what made Finland a hotbed for the Bitcoin community early on? Because it wasn't just you. There was local Bitcoins. There's mining stuff going on. What do you think was the factor on that?
I don't know, technology, post Nokia, I guess. That was around the time when Nokia started losing to Apple. I don't know.
Well, it's an interesting theory, and actually that's a theory why Finland has such a big video game industry as well. Is that it was the post Nokia thing. It's really interesting how that's affected the country. And in the cybersecurity industry, nearly everyone who has been in the industry long enough worked at Nokia at some point.
Yeah, and demo scene is as well credited for the game industry.
What's the SATS snake competition called again?
Chain duel.
Chain duel, yeah. That wouldn't have been a thing if it wasn't for the Nokia 3310, right? Because that phone sort of popularized the snake game. Wasn't that where it sort of started?
Sure,
The
that's interesting.
snake hype.
Yeah. But was there like something that, not just the technology side, like something about understanding the money side of things or the solution to the problem?
I don't really know if there's anything in that regard. Like, if you think about Prague, they have a history with Soviet Union. Like they don't, East Europe doesn't have the same naivety as maybe Scandinavia or Finland has.
Exactly.
Although Finland with its own history, right?
We have our own history, but it's a bit different. We never like purged the Soviets from the government that occupied it after we fell under Soviet influence to some extent after the war.
No, you never let them in.
Well, there's still the Social Democrats, the old communists in the government.
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, I don't mean for myself personally to paint a picture of that. I think it's a perfect place, but I do think it's a great place to live if you can manage the unique things. And I'm also interested now in Bitcoin adoption in Finland, because there are a lot of things in the way of Bitcoin adoption currently. I don't think this is unique in Europe, but the capital gains tax is stupidly high in Finland. It's like 30% on anything. It's not unique to Bitcoin. The VAT is just going up as well, and that's just going to make all businesses harder to run. But then again, we've got Bitcoin mining is starting to become a bigger thing in Finland. There's a bunch of companies that are coming in and all this. So I mean, are you involved much in sort of the local scene adoption in Finland?
No, I'm not actually very much involved with the Bitcoin scene in Finland. Will be interesting to see if Bitcoin starts changing or affecting the politics anytime soon.
Yeah, the irony and the downside to things working so good is that maybe Finland is one of the last places for it to pick up with any institutional level, right?
Yeah,
the individuals.
Yeah, but maybe if we get some industry, maybe if we got some like our own micro strategy in.
Yeah, and I think it also has to do with what's happening in other countries. Like right now, it's hard to see that the Scandinavian countries would ever see institutional adoption of Bitcoin. But like the world around Scandinavia changes, and they can't like ignore reality for too long.
Yeah, I guess maybe climate could be one of our advantages. Like we need heating in the north.
Yeah,
that could be done with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Good angle.
Yeah, a bunch of companies doing that. I think it's genius. The problem I can't get my head around, and we should talk to someone about this, is well, what do you do in the summer? Do you just turn the Bitcoin miners off, or run at a loss? Does the power company have to keep, or no, sorry, the district heating company still need to keep buying your power? Like what's the idea?
You hit the swimming pools and spas.
Yeah.
There we go.
The lakes.
Heat the lakes. Yes, heat the lakes.
Yeah,
perfect.
the mining pools. Yeah.
Mining pools. Good joke. Maybe we should turn back to Nostr a little bit. So we've scratched the surface, but yeah, what are you working on right now? And I mean specifically, what's the at the Iris Snort what do you call it, partnership or whatever it is? What are you working on?
Yeah, so for the past few months, I haven't actually worked on the social side too much. I've done like Iris docs, docs.iris.to is like a Google Docs alternative. I don't recommend it yet, but it's like, it's a prototype at this point. And also I made like, if you're a developer, you can type in the console npm create iris. It will give you a template for a React application, web application for Nostr with all the basic building blocks like login and avatars and whatever. And for the past month, I've been helping a team that is pursuing a bounty on a GitHub on Nostr. So Jack Dorsey is offering a 10 Bitcoin bounty for a GitHub replacement on Nostr. So I've been helping a team that's trying to do that.
Yeah, that's super cool. So the big GitHub was bought by Microsoft, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a danger there.
Yeah, but Git is as a protocol is a little bit decentralized already. You have a repository on your local computer already. You can always run your own server and push it there. Use multiple Git servers.
All right. This is another interesting area, actually. So, yeah, local computer, running a node, the cloud, all of these things. We've really started like there are a lot of great nodes, node in a box companies and stuff, but we really like Start9.
It's like everything for everything you want to run on your own.
Exactly. Their mindset is great. This sort of sovereign computing thing, like running your own server node to run all the things. Like, is this a big component of sort of being a full part of the Bitcoin Nostr ecosystem, running a node and taking your own data yourself, hosting your data yourself?
Yeah, it's good, but I don't think that's what everyone's gonna be doing. I think we need to have all that stuff on your phone, in your pocket. That's how everyone could do it.
So does this create sort of a almost like a relay layer approach? Because I guess the idea is the number of Bitcoin node runners is vastly less than the number of Bitcoin users, hodlers or whatever you call them. And the number of Nostr users is vastly less than the number of relays, right? And so is this sort of a related thing? Like it sort of creates a new layer of the cloud, basically. Someone else's computer, but it's slightly closer to the user?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to host your own stuff. I just wonder if the layman is gonna be doing that.
Well, what's the Mealy quote? Like, it's more important to awaken the lions than to shepherd the sheep, or herd the sheep.
Yeah, but I guess another angle to this though, right, is that for example, if I were wanting to host my own Git instance, right, the issue turns into that, okay, well, I've got my computer, and if I'm able to connect to my computer, I can use it. People can connect to it, all this, but then there's no redundancy, right? It's my computer, and if that computer goes down, then there's nothing. There's a problem there, right? Is this my understanding a little bit is that the relay thing starts to solve this redundancy problem a little bit by relaying it throughout the network. You can just pick up back again, basically. Even from the Nostr side of it, you can set up your own relay and request all of your old notes and all this, and then basically get all of your data back yourself, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like content addressed file storage, like BitTorrent. Content is addressed by the actual content and not the network location, which will change over time. So with content addressing, you can store it in multiple locations and download from multiple peers.
I think a crucial part of this is teaching people about the dangers of honeypots, like having too much data stored somewhere. There was a great story from that I heard. Someone told me, I don't remember whom, but in Amsterdam last year, about a village in Holland where like all the villages had a voluntary a counting of the population. So you filled in a form where you had like height and shoe size and religion, and they were storing it mostly in the churches in every little one-horse town in Holland. And then, of course, when the Nazis came, they went there and looked up all the Jews and sent out Hans Landa to catch them. And but in this particular village where this guy was from, his father had burned down the house where they stored the documents. I don't think it was the church, but it was like some warehouse or something. So when the Nazis came, it just burned down the honeypot, and they had like 40% more Holocaust survivors there because they couldn't catch them. So that's the thing with Honey. It's such a great illustration of what the dangers are with these like single entities that hold people's information. I think people are so unaware of the risks with that.
What do you think is the solution? Because data is sort of freeing us, the digital revolution, and being able to use data to enhance our own capabilities, AI being an example of this. To the extent that AI is actually useful, it does simplify a lot of things. You can ask the AI, how do I do this? And it can give you step-by-step instructions how to do something and save a lot of time. But by giving the AI your data, that puts yourself at risk. That putting your data on a cloud service, it's convenient to download it, but you've given all your data to someone else. Do you have any idea? Is there a solution here in Nostr land?
Well, I hope we're gonna be moving to edge computing, like it's happening on your own devices, phones, or devices instead of the cloud. I hope maybe Apple is taking that direction, maybe to some extent. Like already some models are running on your iPhone. Yes, I would much rather run the AI on my own devices than the cloud.
So what are the things that you would suggest that a typical layman or user of these technologies were to do now? What are some best practices in your view?
For AI or
to stay private, to
for self-sovereignty in general.
For self-sovereignty, yeah.
Well, use Nostr and Bitcoin. If there's even small steps to improve your privacy, like using encrypted cloud storage or something, I guess it could exponentially like lower your footprint, surveillance footprint.
Yeah, the surveillance footprint. We don't want that.
No, we don't want that. So what's the what are you most excited about with Nostr?
Well, it's interesting that Nostr is really the only public key-based decentralized network, because it's not like rocket science. It opens up so many possibilities. We could basically decentralize all the platforms to be trusted third parties. No points of failure. I'm really quite bullish on it.
So MeTube rather than YouTube.
It's a good joke. How would that work in practice, in the sense of that anywhere where you still need a sort of a centralized server to work, right? Well, okay. The centralized services, a lot of them work because they can centralize the decision making and keep everything in one place, and it's convenient. You give up sovereignty for convenience. How does that work in a world where the identities are decentralized? Would you still need the centralized service but interact with it with the decentralized identity?
Yeah, I mean, you could use Nostr in different configurations. There could even be, you could only connect to one relay if you want, but you can always change it afterwards. It's always better to be more decentralized.
Okay, YouTube as an example. Say YouTube changes it so that you can watch YouTube, have a YouTube account with a Nostr public key, right? But YouTube could still say your account gets banned if you do the wrong things.
Well, theoretically you could store the videos locally, right, and then connect peer-to-peer and watch them instead of having them on a server.
Yeah, like file storage is a hot topic on Nostr right now, because right now Nostr is only for textual content, and media files are typically hosted by normal HTTP hosts, servers somewhere, by normal URLs. I think we need to decentralize that in some way. I mean, media servers, they are like a moderation liability. They're quite expensive. Imagine if you upload this podcast somewhere 2 hours, it's gonna be expensive to host.
Yeah.
And their peer-to-peer could help.
Yeah, that's why we broke Nostr when we published my book on it. Yeah.
Did you hear about this?
No.
I think I told you at breakfast yesterday. Like, so that's how we met Million. We were at this fancy rooftop cocktail party in Madeira, and he walks up to me and is like, "You're Knut, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, you broke my Nostr client." So it turns out that, did I? Did I unlock an achievement on the internet? Like, because we decided to publish my entire first book, just copy the text file and put it as a single post on Nostr because we could. And apparently that broke it.
I don't think that even fits in a Nostr event, like many relays limit the size to 60 kilobytes or whatever.
Yeah, but I think that was the problem, that they didn't before that happened.
Yeah, something like that. The idea
We'll have
of
to
a
ask him about it.
note, exactly. He says there's a spec for a long form note, but the whole idea was just post the whole damn thing so that it's just out there.
Just
information, right? But yeah, I guess it didn't scale.
Yeah, and maybe it's a bit technical, but I think Nostr Web of Trust can help finding the content. So when you address content by its content hash, you don't have the URL, the locator part in the network. But I think Nostr, it's a bit technical, but Nostr can help there. You can find out where the author keeps their media files and locate it on the network that way.
Yeah. Is there anything as far as that? So maybe relays or something else would come to the rescue in terms of being this sort of layer in the middle. It's not YouTube, but it's something in the middle where the videos can live, but maybe they live in more than one place. Because back to the redundancy, I think that's always the thing. If you have it only on the edge, right, and it's not distributed, and I mean literally distributed in more than one node, more than one edge node, that node goes down, the content dies.
Yeah, I imagine like if there's a media file that is less popular, then it that might be exist only in a few places, then I guess servers can be useful in that case.
Is this the reinvention of BitTorrent?
Yeah, maybe we need a little bit improved version of BitTorrent. Like BitTorrent works for popular files like movies, but if you're gonna put your whole file system on it, then BitTorrent is not good for that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this is going to develop. I mean, I love that the ideas are being discussed though, because it would be an amazing solution to be able to self-sovereignly host content and keep data backed up and all this. It just I think the skeptical parts that we've had in discussions is first of all the scaling. Does it actually work to run a Nostr relay in a way that's economical? Yeah, so I think still some debate about to what degree is it possible to do that. But the other thing for me is that just how does it work in practice to completely take away these central services that we've started to rely upon, right? And again, this comes back to this isn't a problem until it becomes a problem. It's fine. The centralized services all work until they decide that you're not a person that they want to do business with anymore, and so distributing that becomes the problem. And so these are still questions. I don't know, no exact question there, but any thoughts still?
I guess IPFS has been trying to tackle some of these issues for a long time. It's not simple, but I hope we're getting there.
What's IPFS?
So interplanetary file system.
Yeah.
It's basically a distributed network for content-addressed files and directories.
Yeah, it's sort of like the David Goliath scenario with the state, like these smaller protocols battling the conglomerates of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I'm just glad that there's people out there looking for the solutions to make this so much more, because it's great that this is solving the problem of text, just text communication. The Twitter replacement
and social graph.
Yeah, but just like people are unaware of the problems of inflation mostly, and they are unaware of the problems of data centralization. Like it's most people just don't care about this stuff.
No, apparently not. And what about on the Bitcoin front, the sort of interconnection of Nostr and Bitcoin? I guess what's the role of Bitcoin in all this?
Yeah, well, for some reason, all of the Nostr users seem to be Bitcoiners. Well, there's normies as well, but yeah, maybe it's the similarity, permissionlessness. Also, Lightning is pretty much integrated with all the popular Nostr clients, so you can zap, you can tip for posts with Lightning, and it's quite unique, really. I don't think Twitter is ever going to be able to implement something like that because of KYC and whatever.
No, and yeah, so at least use Nostr in parallel to whatever social media account you're on, because like it's hard to move from one social media platform to another because if you're a content creator, because you have all your following there, so it's the exodus can be tough. But like the sooner you start up your Nostr thing, the easier the transition will be when you're eventually forced out of whatever platform you're on.
And I hope we're gonna have better cross-posting tools so you can make a post and easily publish it on all the relevant platforms.
Yeah.
Of course, Twitter doesn't want that. They don't want any integration with others. They want to keep their network, but maybe we can work around it one way or the other.
I heard an interesting theory about it. Like I had a conversation with Giacomo about Nostr versus Twitter. And it's like everyone's saying that Nostr is so much better because there's no drama. It's like everyone's friendly on Nostr. And he was like, yeah, but that's sort of why I'm on Twitter. Because like someone's wrong on the internet, dang, and you immediately attack it. So like there is definitely a different culture.
Actually, this is an interesting point here. The algorithms, and so you were telling us earlier that Iris actually does have algorithms now.
Yeah, I made an algorithm like based on the users you usually like and the people who have reacted or interacted with the same posts that you interacted.
Yeah, I'll say my wish list for Nostr, just for the usability of it. It doesn't have to be exactly the Twitter clone thing, but first of all, this algorithm sounds great. I would like that when I'm scrolling down, it can say, I've seen this note. I don't want to see it again.
Yeah, that's what it also does.
That's fantastic. And then the second thing is that, that it would refresh periodically a little bit. Because the biggest problem is the exact latest queue is like, there's just no organization to that, none. And the top posts of the day, or even the last 4 hours or hour or something like that, it's the same posts.
Yeah.
Until 24 hours passes again. So just something that works in the middle, I think would be absolutely fantastic. So
yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm usually updating it like once a minute, and it's also mixes in some of the recent posts, so it stays interesting. It's working pretty well for me.
Fantastic. Do you guys know what an algorithm is? It's when you have a result that you want to get to, and you write a mathematical formula that you can repeat over and over again to get to that point that you already decided before you made the formula. This is an actual thing. It's not a joke. There's an actual thing called algorithm.
I hadn't heard of this before.
No, I know. You learn something new every day.
Learn something new every day. No, it's great. I'll have to try Iris more. I'd used Iris maybe 6-8 months ago, a little bit more. I think when it changed interfaces to Snort, I sort of got confused, and I think it didn't work for a while. The caching, I had to control F5, and then it works now.
Yeah, we need to make it faster. It has great like a local relay, so it stores a lot of stuff locally, and it's like a peer-to-peer ready. I've been experimenting on peer-to-peer already, so
very cool.
We just need to make it faster.
The competition between clients is fantastic, and it seems like it's a friendly competition. Everyone is learning from each other, and Primal has somewhat taken the consciousness a little bit. It's sort of the one that a lot of people are saying they're using these days. But I think it's great that you can use different clients and
Yeah,
play
it's
with
so
it.
good for the users. I think that's one of the reasons why Nostr will win, because there's the constant battle between clients evolution.
Yeah, we have been thinking a lot about this in competition in Bitcoin companies specifically, and how like in praxeology it differentiates between biological competition and catalactic competition, right? Where biological competition is the fang and claw battle of nature, where the strongest survive. That's the law of the jungle, basically. And the catalactic competition are free markets, totally free markets. So where both parties don't engage in the interaction unless they both think they have something to win from the interaction. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's better for everyone always. And what we're living in today is like sort of in between fang and claw and catalactic, because there's interventionism and everywhere, and there's inflation and stuff, which you could categorize as more law of the jungle stuff, winner take all stuff, than actual free market stuff. But when you think about it on a Bitcoin standard, it's even weirder it's even more powerful than the normal free market, because at least in the adoption phase, pre-hyper-Bitcoinization, because Bitcoiners are incentivized to, and Bitcoin companies are incentivized to help one another with whatever they're doing, because the success of the Bitcoiner is the success of Bitcoin. So like there's no reason to even compete if you're hardware wallet providers, for instance, or conference organizers. There's like this weird synergy and culture of collaboration, and we see it everywhere. Like we see these effects more and more, and I think like Nostr is very similar, and open source development in general, that people want to see the other guy succeed.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no backstabbing.
Yeah.
In the same way as in Fiat land.
Yeah, it's great to see. Maybe we can touch on our lovely hosts here. The reason we're all in the same room. Although this is one of the cases where we could have actually done this from another location a lot more easily. Knut would have to come to Finland, but maybe next time we'll do it from the Oodi library or something like that. One of the rooms.
We'll see.
Do a sauna rip. Yeah, that sounds
from
perfect.
Riga.
Well, yeah, I guess so. And it occurred to me, because we also have the heavy metal in common, and so this is a case where we could do a heavy metal only episode. Except you're way more interesting than just to do a heavy metal episode, so we have to talk about all the other things as well. Maybe next time we try that, we start with the heavy metal stuff anyway.
What's your favorite metal band?
Children of Bodom is why I started playing guitar as a teenager. Nightwish is still pretty nice.
And will you participate in the Rockamoto here tomorrow night?
Sounds very interesting.
Excellent.
Maybe we should figure out some Finnish metal for the Rockamoto in Riga.
Yeah, shout out to Maz and Lightning Ventures for organizing that.
Can I play guitar or drums there?
Yes, you can.
Great.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
So anywhere you want to send our listeners, any like before we wrap this up, is there anything else? I think we're approaching a good stopping point here.
Yeah. And the only other thing I wanted to just pick your brain on a little bit. How are you finding Prague, BTC Prague?
It's wonderful. Such optimism and positive energy. The venue is great. Prague has become one of my favorite cities, if not the most favorite city. Beautiful architecture, nice, relaxed vibe.
Yeah, totally agree.
Totally agree. Fantastic. So right back to Knut's question. That was it. Martin and Matthias, hopefully you like that.
Get on Nostr if you're not already. Maybe you can start at Nostr.com. You can find Iris and me on Iris.to/Sirius. I hope it's gonna work.
Are you serious?
Yes, serious business. Yeah. I actually have Serious Business Ltd.
Fantastic. Marty, thank you so much for coming on, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Likewise.
Thanks, Martti. Yes, this has been the Freedom Footprint Show. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.